Lindsay Claire. Welcome back to Clarify Things. If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by to check out this video. I hope you find it helpful. In today's video, I will be reviewing the Morphe 351 Icy Fantasy Palette. I'll be telling you all about the palette. I will include some swatches of all the shades, and I will also let you know the pros and cons of this palette. So let's do the damn thing. The palette comes in this pretty box, and the actual box that came in looks the exact same as the palette on the front. And on the back, there's just a little bit more information on the actual box. It tells you the ingredients, and it also tells you which ones are eyeshadows and which shades are not intended for the eye area. I'll get into that a little bit later on in the cons. This palette is absolutely gorgeous on the outside and on the inside, in my opinion. There are 35 shades in the palette. There's 5 different types of shades. There are mattes, shimmers, iridescent shades, silk slip toppers, and a glitter shade here. Packaging is made out of like a cardboard. I'm pretty sure this is a standard Morphe type of packaging. There's no mirror included in the palette, and there's no shade names listed on the actual palette itself. All the shade names were on this little plastic insert that came with the palette. This palette costs 32 Canadian dollars, which is a great deal because you get 35 shades. So that is less than $1 a shade. I saw this palette online and I actually wanted to see it in person, so I went into Sephora to check it out, but the Sephora near me in Canada didn't actually have any of the Icy Fantasy palettes in store yet, so the girl was able to order it online for me and they shipped it to me and I didn't have to pay the shipping, so that was nice. I was really happy when I received it because it was exactly what I was hoping for. Sometimes when you see something online and then receive it in person, it can look slightly different, but this palette was exactly what I was hoping for. Morphe did this palette in collaboration with Pony, who I had never really heard about before looking into this palette, but she is a South Korean makeup artist and she is popular on YouTube and Instagram. So now I'm going to be jumping into swatches of all the shades and I'll be letting you know all the shade names as I go along. From left to right, we have Whiteout, Brilliant, Get Fresh, Imagine, and Hush. We have Snow Glow, Euphoria, Coral Cloud, Rosy Haze, and Fierce Blurry. There's Wishful, Echo, Soar, Sky High, and Avalanche. Here we have Flash Freeze, Thaw Ya, Dazed, Mystical, and Cosmic Cool. And then we have Secret Escape, Chill Thrill, Cold Snap, Starlit, and Frostbright. Here we have So Surreal, Into the Blue, Below Zero, Arctic Abyss, and Black Ice. In the last row we have Spellbinding, Dreamer, Deliver Shiver, Holothermia, and Charmed. In today's eye look, I actually wanted to use as many different shades as I could from the palette just to give you an idea of what they look like on my eyes. I actually used 10 different shades. I kind of did a rainbow effect going from darkest to lightest. It's not an eyeshadow look that I go for on a regular basis, but I think it's very fun, cute, and gives you a good idea of what these shadows look like and how they apply. They're super easy to blend in. I literally almost have to do next to no blending after I've laid the color down. I kind of just feather out the edges slightly, but you really don't need to blend these shadows too much if you're going for a multicolored look. Just laying the product straight down on the lid is the most effective way I find. I've been playing around with the palette for the past week now, and I've used almost every shade in the palette. I think overall the quality of the shades is very nice, but they do have to be built up in most cases. These are all pastel shades anyways, so I wasn't expecting any of them to be super intense. I personally don't mind when shades need to be built up because it just gives you a little bit more control of how intense the shades are. They actually cling to my eye very well, and I don't find with any of these shades that I get too much fallout. And I would also usually tap excess product off a brush before going in, but I find I get better color payoff if I don't tap off the brush. On Morphe's website, they actually say that these shades are all better with natural hair brushes, so that's just something to keep in mind. I find most of the silk slip toppers and shimmers are best applied with my finger. That's the way I get the most color payoff, but whether with my finger or with a brush, I'm pretty impressed that there isn't a lot of fallout on my face, especially because these do seem very powdery in the pan, especially the matte shades. There is a lot of kick up when you dip your brush into them in the pan, but that doesn't seem to fall all over my face when I am applying these to my actual eye. I found all these shadows are pretty true to color. from what they look like in the pan to when I apply them to my eye. With exception to some of the silk slip toppers, they can actually look quite different when you look at them here versus once you apply them, because they have a bit of a duochrome effect going on. So in different lights, you can catch different reflex of different glitter. The matte shades look pretty much like they do in the pan. This one shade here, this glitter, is stunning. It's actually super soft in the pan, so you don't want to dig in too hard because you will pick up a ton of product. While I have been really enjoying this palette, there are a few cons that I wanted to point out. Like I was saying before, these colors do need to be built up, so for some people that is the con. It all depends really what you like. The other con about the palette is that there's no mirror. Not a deal breaker for me, but I do enjoy mirrors on palettes. The other thing I would have liked to see in this palette is the shade names on the actual palette, but since this palette was so affordable, I don't really mind having the shade names on here. It's not the biggest deal to me. My biggest beef with this palette is that nearly half the shades in it are actually not intended for your immediate eye area. That's what the back of the box actually says. It has a list of all the eyeshadows, and then it has a list of all the pressed pigments. And beside the word pressed pigment, it has a eyeball with like the no, don't use it on your eye. That's always a little fishy to me. I've done a bunch of research, and I've actually came across a really helpful video from JenLovesReview that I'll link down below. And she does an awesome job explaining why so many companies are coming out with these type of shadows that are not intended for your eye area, and if they are actually dangerous for your eye area. But to briefly sum it up, the FDA regulates ingredients and cosmetics and whatnot, and the FDA in the United States is a lot more outdated. They haven't updated a lot of their things for years and years. A lot of these same shadows, if they were being sold over in Europe, would be absolutely fine, and they wouldn't be putting the warning that it's not intended for your eye area, because they have done more up-to-date research on a lot of the ingredients in these products. But it is always just a little fishy. I don't love seeing that an eyeshadow palette is not intended for your eye area. They actually call this an artistry palette to kind of get around that. And while they disclose that it's not for the eye area on the back of the box, they don't disclose it on Morphe's website or on Sephora's website. I think that if you're gonna be having palettes that have a lot of shades that are not intended for your eye area, you should definitely be having that information online so that people can know that before purchasing it. So that rant's over. I'm going to get into the pros. I think the color story is very pretty. It is a very unique palette. There's not a lot of palettes that I've seen. Actually, they're starting to come out with more since I've seen this one. Huda Beauty and ColourPop just came out with pastel palettes as well. But pastels are seeming like they're definitely in this year. So I thought this was a great way to try a bunch of different pastels out from different color families, because the other palettes that I've seen are a little more specific, like geared towards pinkies, purples, the minty colors, but this one has a good variety of all those type of shades. I think this is a great way for people who maybe wear more neutral or not a lot of makeup on a regular basis to ease into color, because the colors are not as intense as a lot of other colors out there. Another thing that I really like about this palette is the price. It's only $32 Canadian and you get 35 shades. That is an amazing deal for shadows of this quality. I really like the package of this palette. It fits right in perfectly with the aesthetic in my bedroom, so I will be happy to leave this out on my vanity. Personally, I feel like it's a pro that this palette is buildable. It allows me to have a little more control over how intense the shadows are. I can easily do a soft wash of color, or I can make them more intense if I want to, depending on the day. It just gives me a little bit more flexibility. Overall, I'm very happy that I picked up this palette. I think that it is a great deal for $32. I love the uniqueness of all the shades in the palette, and I think that it will be a great way to incorporate color into my makeup routine on more of a regular basis. I'm really looking forward to using this palette going into the spring and summer, because I think I'll be able to create some really cute looks with some spring and summer vibes. I was really drawn to all the shades in this palette, and I like the fact that they're all cool tone shades. I think cool tones suit me much better. So when I saw there was a palette with 35 shades that were cool toned, I was super excited. There's not a whole lot of palettes out there that have so many cool tone shades in them, so I would highly recommend this one if you're into cool tone shades, want to experiment with color. I actually watched a bunch of different reviews on this palette on YouTube from people with all different skin tones, and it seemed to really flatter a lot of different skin tones. Whether you are going to use this as a standalone palette or mix and match some of the shades with other palettes you already own, I think there's a great variety, and I'm really excited to use it going forward. Anyways, that's it for today. I really appreciate you watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, and I would really, really, really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. See you next time.